They have spent a lot of money for League One. 20 million on one striker is borderline criminal, but you do see teams come down from the Championship and really struggle to get back up. We saw it with Sunderland. We've seen it with Charlton.
Hello and welcome back to part 2 of the Counter Sports EFL podcast. I'm your host, Darren Timson, joined again by Liam and Kevin. Guys, ready to hound Liam on Wrexham?
Right, we need to be careful. We need to be careful that this doesn't just,
No, I know it does. We
this
do need,
doesn't
we
turn
need to
into...
make sure that...
I'd rather not talk about them, to be honest.
No, that's so untrue. I'm trying to think of how many Deadpool and Always Sunny puns I can get into this. So if I'm quiet for a while, I'll just be working on them.
Well, as Kevin's alluded to it there, and Grice as well, I suppose, Birmingham and Wrexham, top 2 of League One at the minute. Birmingham secured their promotion. Was it 2 games to go?
At the start of the season, I think it was.
At the start of the season, yeah, when they spent 12 million on the player. Wrexham on 86 points there, currently 2 points ahead of Wickham, with 2 games to go. Charlton still within a shout of the automatic promotion, same as Stockport as well, to be fair. Leyton Orient, Reading, Bolton, the teams that probably fighting for that last spot in the playoffs. Further down, the relegation is Shrewsbury and Cambridge. I think Cambridge have almost on the way down. Shrewsbury have confirmed going down. Crawley, Bristol, but Burton and Mansfield in there as well. I think we've just got to start with the elephant in the room, guys. Birmingham. Their plucky underdog season in League One after their relegation last year, straight back up.
Yeah, we could very easily make this the butt of a joke, but you have to say full credit. They have spent a lot of money for League One. 20 million on one striker is borderline criminal, but you do see teams come down from the Championship and really struggle to get back up. We saw it with Sunderland. We've seen it with Charlton, who are still in this division. Huddersfield haven't had a great time back in League One. There are some big teams in this division, and maybe they went a little bit overboard, but Birmingham did what they needed to do. Spent the money wisely. They spent the money to get them the quality players that would just completely destroy the division, and that's what they've done. So full credit to them. They definitely deserve to be champions. And there's not really much more to say on Birmingham, because I do think, like I sort of joked before, a lot of people expected them to go up at the start of the season. So yeah, just credit to them, to be fair.
Just quick one. Outside of the obvious in Stansfield, who they spend, who else are we looking at here who might be sort of one to keep an eye on when they go up in the Championship?
Iwata, the midfielder,
okay.
They signed from Celtic for just under $1 million. He's been brilliant this season. That sort of like how Leeds have Ao Tanaka, Birmingham also have him, and it went in Iwata, and they sort of play the same role. Busy, industrious midfielders who can wallop a goal in every now and again. That one he scored against Newcastle in the cup sort of just
that is
sort of just shows you what kind of a player he is. Mark Leonard, he's not really had much of a chance this season, Scottish international, but he's a very good young player. They signed from Brighton in the summer, and I expect him to sort of complete his development in the Championship and prove his worth to Birmingham. And to be fair, Birmingham do have quite an old squad, but it's very experienced, and we spoke about it sort of in part 1 in the Championship pod, but a few of the teams have struggled, albeit will probably survive this season, that have come up from League One. But I expect Birmingham to go probably one better and be comfortably mid-table, if not just on the edge of playoffs when they go up this year. So there's a lot to like if you're a Birmingham fan going into the next season, which I'm sure they know.
Second place then is obviously Wrexham, and another underdog story for me. Sorry, Leon, I just had to. I know, but so Wickham closest challengers to you. Wickham obviously lost to Charlton the other day pretty heavily. Don't you play Charlton next? So it is pretty tight at the top there. Realistically, what do you give your chances of going up?
I mean, you will know this probably better than anybody, how much of a pessimist I am when it comes to anything sporting wise. But if I'm taking off the Wrexham hat very begrudgingly and looking at the playoffs objectively, I think it's between us, Wickham, and Charlton to go up automatically. And if Charlton had sort of snuck a 1-0 win away at Wickham the other day, I'd be slightly more confident than I am right now. But they went to Wickham and they absolutely battered them. I couldn't believe it when I was checking my phone and then seeing the score and just how comfortably they beat, for me, what is the second best side in this division in Wickham, albeit their fans don't necessarily agree with their manager. No, Wickham genuinely are the second best side in this league. I know we're talking about Wrexham, but I'll get onto them because I don't want the whole podcast to be about them. Richard
so far,
Coney.
none of the podcast has been about them.
I'm doing the Carragher. I'm going the complete other way and being biased against them. But Richard Coney, their Wickham striker, has been, if Stansfield doesn't exist, the best striker in the division this season. He's been very, very good, coming up from, I think it was something like step 7 in non-league football to scoring nearly 20 goals in League One. The reason their season has sort of derailed a bit is their manager Matt Bloomfield left for Luton, who haven't fared great, as we found out in part 1, and their manager they brought in, Mike Dodds, is, how do I say, not very popular with the Wickham fans, especially after that Charlton game. But if I have to, on Wrexham, as Darren said, one of the best underdog stories ever to grace the world of football. Or as Nathan Jones likes to call it, a circus. He called Wrexham a circus the other day. So let's see if the clown can come to the racecourse and get 3 points.
There we go.
That's more like it.
It's been a lot better of a season than I think a lot of Wrexham fans expected. I said at the start of the season I'd be very happy with 12th place. Be very happy with midway up League One, and they've surpassed even my wildest pessimistic dreams of a 6th place finish in the playoffs. To be in with a shout of going back to back, or is it back to back? I'm not really sure.
Back to back.
Well, you never know next year. Back to back is. It's
saving for the preview pod.
It's just silly. I think me and Darren were talking about it off air yesterday. I couldn't find something that tells me another team has done that. So that would be a nice little piece of history for us to pick up.
If anyone does know about that, we would like to hear about it. But we were trying to look it up.
I can't find anything.
Yesterday. We couldn't find it.
They do have Charlton next, which, like I said, would be a lot more confident if they didn't just go away to Wickham and smack them 4-0 like it was nothing. So that's a massive game on Saturday. And on Saturday, if Wickham do drop points, I think they've got, is it not Bolton? No, Leyton Orient, who are pushing for playoffs themselves. So if they drop points away to Leyton Orient, which is the 12:30 kickoff. And Wrexham, I think, get a point against Charlton. They're confirmed to go up, so it could be decided on Saturday, or in true Wrexham fashion, it'll go to the last day of the season, and we'll see what happens there. But
On
yeah,
penalties again.
it's it's been a season of a lot more joy than I expected for Wrexham, so I've been very happily watching along as the plucky underdogs try and go to the Championship.
So if say just hypothetically you do stay in second place, and then the playoff spots look as Wickham, Charlton, Stockport, who would then you give as that last spot in there? Would I suppose it's probably between Reading and Leyton Orient, really. Bolton do have a chance, but I mean a -3 goal difference compared to +20 for Leyton Orient. They would need some miracle to get into there. Who are you looking at as getting that last spot, and then looking further towards those playoffs? Is it probably going to be between Wickham and Charlton, or do you think Stockport have a really good chance as well?
Stockport always have a chance. Stockport are a brilliant knockout format side. Dave Challoner, as much as a lot of people think Wrexham and Stockport fans don't get along, I have a lot of admiration for Stockport. Challoner's done a brilliant job there. I don't think he's finished lower than a playoff position in his entire managerial career, which is some stat. He's a brilliant manager, and they fully deserve to be up there fighting. I think they are definitely in with a chance of going up through the playoffs. It's that, like you said, it's that last slot which is really interesting. And as good as Leyton Orient are, and as big as a goal difference gap that they have, their next two fixtures are Wickham at home, which we've talked about, and Huddersfield away, who, albeit don't have a chance of getting into the playoffs, but Huddersfield is a really difficult place to go and get points despite how free scoring Leyton Orient are. Whereas Reading, which there's another part to the story I'll get onto after this, have Bristol Rovers away, who I think if they lose that are relegated. Oh no, I think they already are relegated. Oh, something like that. They're close to relegation. So they've got everything to play for, but so have Reading. And then they've got Barnsley at home, final day of the season, who are in that 12th place position. So Reading have the easier fixtures. And also, the story of Reading this season has been a lot of trouble off the pitch with their owner, a lot of financial worries. They've been under transfer embargo the whole year. So a lot of their team is youth players that have come through and free signing transfers. So the story of them getting into the playoffs would be really good for a documentary. I think they should really do one of them. But some good news for Reading fans is I think it was either this morning or late last night I saw that they'd entered a period where they could be getting taken over. The prospective buyers have taken over all financial burden of the club, so the players and staff don't have to worry about not getting paid, which is the best way to transition to new owners. So it would just be the cherry on top if Reading can secure a playoff spot and give them a shot of going up to the Championship with new owners. That'd be really good. So I think based on fixtures left, as good as Leyton Orient are, I do think Reading will sort of just sneak into that 6th place. But then for me, like I said, I think Wickham are comfortably the second best side in this division, and if they don't go up automatically, they'll go up through the playoffs. They deserve to.
Yeah, I think the Reading thing would be good because, like Liam mentioned, I mean, this is a club who through various points of the season didn't know if they were going to exist because the owner was expelled under the owners and directors test, which that's a whole podcast on its own. And it's like it's the second time I think he's been given an extension to sell the club, even though technically he's not allowed to own, because he's not allowed to own it. It's just been a disaster. So to see them sort of defy all that nonsense off the pitch and still be able, like Liam said, with under a transfer embargo, with the players that are available to him, even if they were to just get into the playoffs, maybe not go up, but just
be there.
get into the playoffs. I think that would be huge. I think it would be huge for them to and like again we joke about sort of Birmingham with the money, Wrexham to a lesser extent. But then you look at the opposite end, and you've clubs like Reading, and then I mean Bury and Macclesfield much further down the pyramid, who basically had to start again. So to see a club do this, I think will be cool, and that's no disrespect to the Leyton Orient.
Yeah, 100%.
I want Reading to. It would be great to see Reading. I get it, considering all that's gone on.
Unless Leyton Orient do us a favour, then I want them to go up.
Looking further down, Mansfield, Burton, Bristol, Crawley, and Cambridge. Shrewsbury, not a great season for them. 7 wins, 9 draws, 28 defeats. You can hear the sympathy in Liam's voice. I'll let him take this one again.
Well, I mean, people who are listening maybe don't know that Wrexham and Shrewsbury, I'm going to say rivals, really. You know, they don't like each other, so it's real.
They're relatively close geographically.
Real shame to see them go down, but they did get the We Beat Wrexham at Home trophy this season, so congratulations to them for that. Enjoy League Two.
It's all coming out today.
I don't like this side of Liam. It makes me uncomfortable.
The rest of the relegation battle, Mansfield, I think they've got the game in hand. On the teams in the relegation zone, they're the other team that came up from League Two last season with us and Stockport, and at the start of the season looked to be on par with us, looked to be going for that top half finish, but they've really fallen away as the season's gone on. But I think they might just have enough to stay up. They have got Birmingham next, which is not an easy game, as Birmingham will be going for the 102 points. I think it is 105 points they can get by the end of the season, but they should just have enough credit in the bank to keep them safe. Cambridge, I think, are, if not mathematically, pretty much down. Very, very poor season for them. I don't think they won in their first 15 games or something like that. They had a torrid start to the season, so even to not be bottom of the league come the end of it is some form of miracle. Hopefully they can bounce back in League Two, which we have. I mean, we'll get on to League Two in a bit. We have seen teams struggle with a lot in recent years, and then I think it is just between Burton Albion and Bristol Rovers. Crawley, unfortunately, given all their owner drama as well off the pitch, I don't even know where to start with that, so I'm not going to. Are pretty much down. Can't really see them crawling out of it. So Bristol and Burton are the two teams that, you know, Burton Albion do have Cambridge next, which if they win that, I think they're safe, which condemns Bristol Rovers to relegation. So it is all on for the next game in that relegation battle. I mean, it's never nice talking about relegation, but 4 teams have to go down. It's just a shame one of them was Shrewsbury.
League Two, then, the league that they'll get relegated into.
Yes!
Doncaster, Port Vale, Bradford in the automatic places as it stands, but it's very tight in this one at the minute. Doncaster are currently first, but they could find themselves in the playoff spots. Walsall are on 74 points, so it's 4 points separating the top 4. Wimbledon, Notts County, Liam's favourite club, and Grimsby also in the playoffs there. And then it also can stretch down to, I think, 12th in this league as well. So it's very tight between all of the contenders, really. Crewe and Bromley on 62, and they could theoretically make the playoffs with Grimsby on 67. And then looking further down into the relegation spots again, Accrington, Tranmere just sit outside, but they also could find themselves in relegation if results don't go their way. Accrington probably too far away for that to happen. Morecambe have their fate sealed, but Carlisle as well. They're 4 points off Tranmere, so it's probably unlikely that Carlisle will make it out of the relegation spots, but it is technically possible. But yeah, again, Liam, where do you want to start here?
Well, yeah, we'll start on that relegation battle because it'd be nice to end on something a bit more positive in the league. Like as you said, Morecambe, their seat's been filled. Their fate's been sealed. They were relegated the other day, unfortunately, which condemns them to the National League, which, as I know all too well, is very hard to get out of. So good luck to them. Carlisle look like the team being condemned to go down with them, but have been on a little bit of a run as of late. So you never know. One of those last gap escapes could be on the cards at the bottom end of League Two, which, as you said, Accrington maybe are a bit too far away. Could mean Tranmere go down in their place. They play Crewe next, who, as you said, have an outside chance of the playoffs. So they've got everything to play for, and it's a bit less of an exciting relegation battle because one of the teams is already down, and there's only really two that count. So there's not much to speak on, but who doesn't love a last gap escape, eh? Why can't Carlisle crawl back and claw back the 4 point gap to Tranmere? The goal difference is pretty even, only one goal in it, so there is everything to play for at the bottom, as there is at the top, as you mentioned, Darren. It's very, very tight. And even you could say the top five. I mean, Doncaster probably are out of reach of Wimbledon, but Wimbledon could just as easily catch Bradford if they go on a bit of a poor run at the end of this season. And the big game in that title, automatic promotion race is Doncaster versus Bradford, which is the next game. I think if Doncaster win that, they confirm themselves to go up to League One next season. If Bradford do the same, it really puts the pressure on Port Vale and Doncaster then, and we'll go to a last day shootout. And yeah, it's nice to see Bradford back up there again, because they've, like I said before, they were the poster boy for the team that got relegated to League Two and never really quite managed to get out. So it's nice to see them actually giving it a good go for once with Graham Alexander at the helm, who I quite like as a manager. Port Vale, another team that have come down recently and seem to be giving it a good go to get back up. But the team I do want to touch on, I think Kevin's inching to make a point, but the team I do want to touch on quickly is Walsall, who
I was going to tell you that.
Now we'll definitely have a new formed rivalry with Stoke after they recalled Nathan Lowe midway through the season, who's been nominated for League Two Player of the Year despite being recalled in January. So I think that tells you all you need to know about Nathan Lowe. He was far above that level, is the best way of describing him in that first half of the season. And then he's gone on to play one game for Stoke City's under-21s for the remainder of the campaign. So go figure what the thinking was behind that. Walsall have really fallen off in the second half of the season without their star man on loan. So they're still in with a chance of automatics, but you know, is the downward momentum too hard to stop now?
They've nearly collapsed completely, haven't they?
Yeah.
Walsall,
relegation.
Yeah, honestly, it's insane. And just looking at the playoff, it's like I'm literally looking at the table here, and you've Walsall, Wimbledon, and Notts County there. Between the three of them, they've 3 wins combined over the last 18 games.
Nobody wants to go up.
Nobody wants it. Nobody wants it at all. And you could nearly throw Bradford in that as well, who also only have one win in 6. So that's 4 wins between 4 teams in 24 games. Insane stuff altogether. Absolutely insane.
That's why we love the EFL. It just throws up the weirdest stats possible.
You just love League Two now because Wrexham aren't in
I
it
love
anymore.
League Two. Always love League Two.
What about Notts County, Liam? Because obviously they were the team that were battling with you then they went up through the playoffs. Have they kind of just stagnated a little bit in League Two, or is it just a steady progression from a club you'd expect to come up from the National League that doesn't have celebrity owners?
Yeah, I think that's a good way of looking at it. County, although much to the shock of everybody, haven't done things very sustainably. Which I know what they haven't. They've spent money as well. Shock. Have been were in with a chance of going up last year. Sort of fell away at the end of last campaign. You could sort of say that's a similar story this year. Their form, as Kevin alluded to, has been relegation form towards the back end of this season, and they do sort of seem to run out of steam at the end of campaigns. The manager Stuart Maynard came from Wealdstone, which was a semi-professional outfit, so there was a bit of a question mark whether he could make the step up. But to be fair to him, being in a playoff spot at this crunch time in the season is no mean feat. So full credit to him. And they have Harrogate next, who have nothing to play for, so you'd expect them to get 3 points there. But this is League Two runabout. Anybody can beat anybody, which is what makes it great. Which could see them fall outside of the player, or not fall outside, be level on points with Colchester going into the final game of the season, which could be tough for County because they do have league leaders Doncaster at home, final game of the season. So you'd expect them to go all out for those points at Harrogate and then hopefully sort out their playoff spot before they have to play either promoted or going for automatic promotion Doncaster.
Chesterfield as well. They came up this season, didn't they? From the
Yes,
National League. How they got on?
Yeah, and again, it's part of a wider point where I don't think since promotion from National League to League Two was introduced, I don't know how long ago it was, but a team, well, the teams that have come up through winning the league and winning the playoffs from the National League have never been relegated in their first season going into League Two, which sort of shows the closeness in the gap between teams. So to see them maybe just an outside shot of playoffs, which is probably where a lot of Chesterfield fans would have expected them to be at the start of this season, and the other promoted side, Bromley, who are I keep making the joke, but a documentary in waiting at Bromley. They've been a resurgence. Michael Cheek was the bane of my existence in the National League. He would guarantee you 25 goals a season, no matter what the quality of the side was, and he's translated that perfectly to league football. Scored 22 this season. You can't help but like Bromley and the job they've done this year. Andy Woodman deserves all of his plaudits for guiding them away from that bottom half of the table, because if I'm being honest, I was slightly worried for them. I think they were going to be the team to break that record that's been going, but very, very good job that those two promoted sides have done this season.
The last thing, I know you didn't really want to end on a somber note there, Grice, but it came to me when we were talking about the relegation sides, and I remember the trouble Tranmere went through over the past couple of years. I'll give this one up to both of you really, because you probably know a lot more about it than me as well, Kevin. But Tranmere sit just outside the relegation places. How important is it that they do stay in this division, and what has really, have they managed to get themselves out of the trouble that they would seem to be finding themselves in?
Yeah, I think it's massive. Like we for those that don't know, we went to university in Liverpool, so obviously all the focus is on the two main clubs there, but there is a sizable portion of that city who support Tranmere Rovers. Like, they're a big club in relative terms if you compare it to other places. And again, the fact that that for the last few years, basically since we've sort of been there, I feel like they've always been flirting with relegation. Now, I don't know if you saw the other week them coming from 3-0 down at Accrington. The clips sort of went viral, and all three goals are like the most ridiculous long-range strikes you have ever seen in your life. Look, it looks like they've done enough. I know we touched on it with Carlisle. It looks like there's enough of a gap where it would have to be an absolute disaster over the last two games of the season. But I think it is really important they stay up. I mean, if they were to drop to non-league, I don't know what would happen. Like, Prenton Park is a really good ground, but it's massive as well. Like, they have that really big stand behind one of the goals, and seeing that in the National League, I'm not saying the supporters would abandon them at all, but like, they're too big a club, and I know that sounds stupid, but they're too big a club to be in the National League, and they wouldn't even be the biggest Merseyside team in non-league with Marine securing their National League North status. Had to shout that one out. But no, Liam may be able to allude to why this has happened, but I'm just trying to. I think it is important that they stay up, and they have to find a way to kick on a bit and just. Well, maybe try next season, just finish comfortably mid-table, just so it's not another stressful sort of relegation season.
I'm not going to pretend to know a lot about the situation, but looking at it from an outside perspective, it just seems like a case of really stagnant ownership, not really reaching for more. If that makes sense, there's not really, especially from our perspective, like the ambition to do better. Like Kevin said, I think they're very content with sort of finishing in that bottom lower half of League Two every season if it means they keep the money coming in and keep the club afloat, which on one hand, if you're keeping the club alive, that is the main aim. The club needs to stay stable, but it would be a bit easier if you sort of put your hand in your pocket and sprung up that table. There were all these rumors about the takeover.
Has ASAP Rocky bought them yet? I'm just checking. The first headline that came up that I saw, ASAP Rocky. This is a brilliant headline. ASAP Rocky moves closer to buying Tranmere Rovers after gun trial acquittal. I mean, that's
So he was apparently buying, I think it was 80% stake, 80%, like 15 million pounds. Which, I mean,
takeover expected ahead of next season now is the report.
Despite, they're late to the trend, getting the Hollywood owners in. It would give them the boost that I think Tranmere, not just the club, but the place needs to sort of get behind their team and really make that push up the league, because it has been pretty depressing for a few seasons now at Prenton Park. And as Kevin mentioned, we've been there a few times with Uni, and you can't help but think they are a bit too big of a club to drop down into the National League. But there are some massive teams in the National League, some big teams in the National League. Oldham are currently in there. They're the traditional EFL side who don't look like going up this year. Southend have had their share of troubles.
They're in the playoffs, Oldham. So you never know. I mean, Barnet, look, they'll probably win the league.
As I say, this is your domain, Kevin, isn't it? With Files.
Yeah. Well, not
anymore. But
not anymore. Barnet, like, you're right, there's some big teams in that National League, and as you well know, they're only going to keep coming again. I sort of mentioned Macclesfield and Bury and teams like this, like they're coming. Scunthorpe as well are coming back from National North, so you don't want to get caught because it's so easy.
It's so easy just to get into that spiral of the relegation from League Two, and then every club that comes down sort of thinks, we'll be fine, we'll go straight back up, and it never happens because that league is, as I fully well know, horrible to get out of.
Well, do you want to run us through one of those leagues in particular, Liam,
Oh
in
yeah,
the National League South.
the National League South. Which yes, you are hearing that correctly. There is football below League Two, and if we thought the Championship, League Two, League One, and League Two promotion chases were good, just you wait for this one. Going into the final game of the season, you have Truro City, Torquay, Eastbourne Borough, Worthing, Boreham Wood, previous National League club, Dorking Wanderers of Mark White fame, who can all still mathematically win the league title on the final day of the season. Truro and Torquay are on 86 points. Eastbourne and Worthing are on 85, and then Boreham Wood and Dorking are on 83. So for the latter two, it would take the four teams above them to have a bad result. But this is non-league football. Anything can happen. I'm not sure how much you know about it, Kevin, but it's been a title race that's been brewing over the course of the season, and now it's really just come to the final game, which is brilliant to see.
If you ever have any inclination to support local, and never mind the elite level nonsense of the Premier League and European football, this is it. No, I said that half a joke. I think, look, we there's a lot to like about, obviously we all enjoy high level football. We all talk about it. I find it quite frustrating and annoying at times. Not necessarily the stuff on the pitch, but off it. And having worked in the non-league world for the last sort of 2 years, it's great just in non-league football as a whole. And if you have a local team, go down to them, because this is the sort of stuff that happens. You can have a great time. And I'm saying 6 teams going into the last day within line to win the league. I kind of hope it's Truro, and I'll tell you for why. Because I have spent a lot of this season traveling far and away down the motorways of England to get to places. I won't be next. It'll be more regionalised for me next year, I'd imagine.
I suppose, yeah.
And I'm delighted if Truro get there, because it is.
Oh, it's very far away.
It's Cornwall, basically. And there are some teams in the northeast. I'm thinking teams like Gateshead,
yeah.
who are basically Newcastle. And that away day, let's just say, better not put it on a Tuesday night.
They don't have the cushiness of a plane or a big massive coach. It's a minivan from Gateshead to Truro. So
yeah,
that's what they've got to
look
forward to.
We're all above the Truro. And this is gonna sound stupid. The Dorking thing annoys me. I don't know why. He kind of annoys me, and I don't know why. So Truro, and let's go for Torquay, because my youth
Big
watching
club.
Soccer AM, where I believe Helen Chamberlain was a massive Torquay United fan. So shout out to her and all the Torquay fans.
Well, on Dorking, I'm going the complete opposite. I love what Dorking are doing. I've been fortunate enough to meet Mark White a couple of times, and he is, for good or bad, the exact same off camera as he is on camera. He's brilliant. And I'm not just saying that because he put £500 behind the bar. I'm saying it because he's a very.
But it helps.
But it helps. He's just very down to earth, normal guy. Despite how he comes across on camera sometimes, which I love. I think it's brilliant that he just does not give anything.
Sorry, that just reminded me of the bit in The Simpsons, Krusty. Let's just say it moved me to a bigger house.
And I was quite disheartened when they went down last year. He's just, if we ignore him for a second, the rise of Dorking Wanderers has been miraculous, coming from playing on park pitches on a Sunday to being in the National League last year, and it's one of the good stories of English non-league football, which I hope we see more of in the near future, and hopefully they can sort of bounce back immediately, because as we've been saying all podcast long, it's very hard to make that bounce back from getting relegated. And if they can do that, whether it's through the playoffs or win the league, then I wish them the best of luck.
And we'll probably leave it there, I imagine. Thank you for listening to the 2 parts today. And hopefully you have stayed for the entire episode, because why are you leaving after 30 seconds when we've got so much to talk about? Because we may talk about your club. So I hope you stayed, and I hope you enjoyed it. And if you did, please like and subscribe. We would really appreciate it. If you want us, as usual, to talk about anything specific, then please give us any suggestions. The Reading thing is pretty big, so if there's any Reading fans that want to maybe get in touch with us, then that'd be, like as the guys mentioned earlier, that could be a pretty good podcast to get into, as there's not really been a lot of coverage about that. We'll probably be back next week to do the top 4, excluding the Premier League, European League. So that's France, Italy, Germany, and whichever one the fourth is going to be, I suppose. Spain, yeah. That's the one. We'll just gloss over that. I forgot about
the small matter of Real Madrid and Barcelona.
Yeah, well, I don't Real who?
Sociedad.
Yeah, well, so we'll talk about what's going on through those leagues as well, just to give a bit of a background there. Then we'll do F1 again next week, and then I think the week after is where things start getting interesting in all the leagues. So the Lions tour as well.
The Lions squad will be announced as well.
The Lions squad will also be announced. So please stick around for those. But for now, thank you to Liam. Thank you for Kevin for joining us. And if you want to go and watch the first part, please click the video on your screen now. But for now, thank you and goodbye.